Welcome to the Image Critique Show with Jeff Johnson, Rick Avalos, and their special guest. So sit back, relax, and enjoy the show.
Well, welcome everyone to a brand new season of the Image Critique Show. It's so good to see several returning faces, and I got a couple of new ones coming in here. There's my brother at arms and brother in life, Rick Avalos. Ricky, how are you?
Doing great, doing great. So glad to have all of you here. Uh, we've got a really great night of images ahead of us, and I can't tell you how much I appreciate your loyalty. We're into our fourth year now, believe it or not, and the only reason we've been able to sustain this length of time is because of your participation, your input, and your support. Really appreciate it, guys.
Absolutely. It's been so much fun for us just to sit and talk and have other people listen in, pretending like we know what we're talking about. So that's cool. Cliff, this is his fourth season for hanging in as our manager and our chief. Thank you, Cliff. Good to see you again, Sue.
That's only because of the pay.
And I keep saying, just so everybody knows, so it's all up and up. We're doubling his pay this year. So,
well, you're giving him like the case of Twizzlers each time. Is that it?
I will do anything for Twizzlers.
Yeah.
Okay.
See, just so you know.
Cherry or black?
No,
red ones or black ones?
Cherry ones, and he doesn't really like red vines. Okay, red vines are like in a pen.
Oh, okay, that's good to know because I like red vines.
Yeah.
Hey, Christina, don't stir up the troops, man.
Okay.
Because we're willing to double his pay. So 2 times 0 is what?
I still can't figure that out.
I just assumed you were paying him in Twizzlers.
Okay, well, that's a consideration that we probably won't.
I guess we have to now.
Consider.
Yeah. I guess we have no choice. We have witnesses now.
Yeah, and
anyways,
that's part of this whole format or model, if you will, is that we're totally outside any organization's constraints. So we can have as much fun as we want to have, and it's still a learning, educational platform. And I think, I don't know that I would speak for Kevin or Cliff or Jeffy, but for me, I just feel that I learn much more than I ever impart in these get-togethers every month. So I really appreciate it. And maybe we should introduce our little brother, Jeffy.
Yeah, guys, this is so cool because we've got one of our dear friends who's going to jump in and be one of our co-hosts with us this season, our dear friend, Mr. Kevin Holliday. Kevin, welcome, my friend. Thank you for wanting to hang out with us some more and in public.
Guys, my pleasure.
In public and on a recording.
Yeah. Oh, you're recording? Oh, shit. Okay. Didn't know that. Yeah, no, it's good to be aboard. I appreciate coming along, and it's been fun playing with you guys for the past couple of years from time to time, and now to come on board on a more sustained level, it's going to be fun. I'm looking forward to it.
Sustained only if people remember to turn the show on every month.
Yeah, exactly.
You want to tell us a little bit more about yourself for those of you who may not be familiar with the type of work you do? And
I'm strictly a black and white photographer, long exposure primarily, but not always. I'm living down at the coast now, so I have a lot of water and beautiful cloud movement to work with. Christina could attest to that. She's visited a couple times, so have you, Jeff. But primarily just black and white architecture, landscape, and seascape work is what I primarily do. And I'm also a graphic designer, so a lot of my work is heavily leaning towards graphic design, minimalism and shape and form and line. And I use a lot of square format in the end. Yeah. I teach some Photoshop mostly, and then field workshop stuff as well. Long exposure primarily when it comes to that. So yeah, I don't pat myself on the back too much.
And in other words, you're a slacker.
I'm a slacker. Yep.
Just like the rest of us.
Yeah.
Well, thanks, Kevin, for
Got
agreeing to be our friend.
That's, that's
We'll
good.
equal
That's good.
we'll equal your pay is like Cliff's.
Okay.
So everybody will be happy. Matter of
All
fact,
right.
let's pay everybody tonight.
Yeah,
Double
we'll
or
pay them
nothing.
all. Be like the
Well,
Oprah
gang,
show.
again,
You get a car,
yeah.
you get a car, you get a car.
I'll
Mhm.
All
settle
right.
for
So,
red
gang, just
vine.
quickly, what we've got this year. Again, we've got some great guests that we're going to be bringing each month. We're still talking with some of them to bring some cool stuff in. We're going outside of the PPA world for a couple of judges that I've chatted with. So hopefully we'll bring you some unique points of view. Tonight's program is, if you remember last year, we did their first program of the year where we had some images and we let you, it was images from other artists and we let you guys kind of be the judge. We're not doing that this program, but what we're going to do is the three of us have brought a few images that we've always cherished and adored, and just kind of talk a little bit about why they were successful, what the good points, the bad points, so on and so forth. But also even bring into the question is how would they do in image competition these days, and just have some ideas of that. So by all means, if you guys have questions about it, like usual, please put them in the chat box. Cliff is monitoring that. If he feels it's a pertinent enough question at the moment, we'll jump in. We'll probably save all the questions to the end of the program. We've got about, what do we end up, Kevin? 18, 19 images to chat
Roughly
about. So
20, roughly 20.
20? Okay,
20.
cool. So we've got that to deal with. So yeah, so jot your questions down in the chat box or in a notepad and ask us later.
Mhm.
Heck, there was one other thing I was going to say too.
Yeah, image quality, the quality of the images.
Oh yeah. So,
Yep.
a lot of these images are older images. We got them from the web. Probably copies of copies of copies. Some of them are soft, some of them are a little smaller. So we're not going to talk about any of that kind of a thing because you'll see when we pull them up that some of them have not quite sharp blacks that are so dark there's nothing there. Who knows about the original? So we're not going to talk anything about those kind of things. More about the composition, the story, all those kind of fun things.
The
So that's what this is
impact of
about.
what it had on the history,
Yeah,
on the history of
exactly.
our craft, really.
Yeah.
I think. Yeah.
So that's kind of the point of this. Before we start, do you have any questions or thoughts? Anybody, real quick? We'll just give you a quick second. Feel free to shout out or type in the box or shut up. I don't care. I do care. It's not that I don't care. Whatever.
Always the charming host.
Yep. All right, I'm
Isn't
gonna
that
get shared here.
the host with the most?
You
That's
ready
right.
for me to share a screen, Jeff?
Absolutely. Yeah, do
All
it or
right.
else so I can still stop talking. We're good.
All right, let me get Photoshop shared here. Let me know if you can see an empty Photoshop screen.
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
All right. Okay, this first one, Rix, this is one you submitted. This is one everyone will know. I'm not even going to give the title of this one because it'll give it away too soon. This is one everyone will know immediately. A lot of these images are, frankly.
Yes.
Right.
Yep.
Yes, indeed.
Okay, you got it?
Oh, yeah, got it.
Yeah,
Okay.
you see it.
I'll tell you what, times have changed so much in our country, and we see this image of Joe Rosenthal's flag raising of Iwo Jima, and obviously, from a compositional point of view, strong diagonal lines, all of that, those elements that we talk about, but there is so much history behind this image, not only in the capture of the image and what it portrayed, but then, we start to see, as I mentioned earlier, how history changes so much, and yet there's so many similarities because we're seeing this flag being raised on Mount
Suribachi.
Suribachi, thank you. And, you know, the classic tale of good over evil, if you will. And then we can reminisce and think about 9/11 and seeing those brave firefighters raising the flag, right around ground zero. And, we're seeing the history that's being made, but there's a little bit more of a story behind this, because when we look at these individuals, in particular, Native American by the name of Ira Hayes. And if anyone has seen any documentaries or stories about him, and there are stories about the other warriors in this image, but it was so sad that about his life and how, here he is, a hero fighting for his country, and then the way that he lived out his life and ultimately his death. So my point being, great image. The storytelling is there, but the story I'm wanting to convey is the story behind the story. So Jeff or Kevin, if you want to chime in.
Go ahead, Kev.
I'm not really sure what else to add. Rick covered this really well, Jeff. I mean, I know this image. We all know this image so well, but it's not one I even really ever studied for whatever reason. And I don't know much of Joe Rosenthal's other work. I'm sure I've seen some of it, but I think to Rick's point, it's a masterful image of capturing the emotion of the moment, and not even seeing any expressions on people's faces and still being able to capture that is what kind of drives it home to me.
Yeah, and if we want to kind of follow our whatever premise of this particular show, gosh, in PPA competition, doggone it, if they'd have just straightened that horizon line.
Sure.
Or bottom left, that light trap, whatever it is, just to tone that down or take it out, blah, 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 blah. But so to be fair, we want to talk about these images in their artistic and historical value, but also where they may or may not play in competition. But
This was the second raising of the flag. This was number 2.
That's right. I remember that now.
They raised another one, but it was kind of small. So this was actually the second raising of the flag. And Joe Rosenthal turned around and looked at this just at the right time. He almost missed it.
yeah.
Oh, no kidding.
Yeah.
Wow. Very cool.
Wow.
Thanks, Cliffy. I appreciate your input because Cliffy knows.
Cliffy knows.
All right, Jeff, anything to add?
No, I think he covered. I think the one point basically that Rick mentioned is that in our minds we talk about PPA rules and things like that, and we're, it's kind of around the edge of what's right and not right, and it's not necessarily about right and wrong. It's about PPA point of view and things like that. And that's kind of what this program came about, is a lot of phenomenal imagery that we've all known, historical things like this, that frankly, if this was put into a PPA competition, it would lose because the sky's a little blown out. Because it's so, again, take that with how you may, but that's just some of the, I don't know, irony, maybe is that the right word, in real life photography, as opposed to what we've all been, I don't want to say it's wrong what PPA is saying, but it's also a lot more stringent and narrow, not maybe narrow-minded, but I guess the point of tonight's show is so that it's okay to be human and to have images that maybe don't have a straight horizon, and the impact is there and stuff. So
you think landing boats would have been in the background somewhere?
Well, I don't know, something more horrific as far as the debris, maybe.
The landing boats are on this side, not on the north side. The landing boats are on the south side.
Okay.
Moving along here. Get that closed. Let's see here. Next image up. Rick, this is also yours. This is Alfred Krupp by Arnold Newman.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, 1963 is this photo.
Yeah. Alfred Krupp was a munitions manufacturer in Germany during World War II. And Arnold Newman was a photographer for one of the major magazines in the United States. And when he was assigned this project, he refused because Arnold Newman, being a Jew, said, as we would expect, I hate the man. He is creating ammunition, armaments, ordnances that are killing my people. I will not photograph him. And he said, unless I have carte blanche, in so many words, to photograph him. Because Arnold Newman was a master at portrait lighting. And he decided that when he photographed this man, that he would photograph him obviously with the lighting that you're seeing, skim lights from the camera left and right, low light, or the light coming down, casting shadows in his eyes, and the absence almost entirely of catch lights that takes away any life of this subject. And the lighting that we would consider now as ghoul lighting or monster lighting was exactly what Newman wanted, because he saw this man as evil, he saw him as diabolical, he saw him as the devil himself. And the appropriate placement of this subject was in his factory, where these arms and ordinances were being manufactured. And it's interesting to me, too, compositionally, that he's framed by these concrete pillars to the left or right, pillars that are mindful of subjects or prisoners in the Holocaust that were, imprisoned in a way that they couldn't get out. And then, let's again talk about PPA standards. Well, there's that darn light camera left, just left of his head, that can be taken out. The skylights could be toned down. There's that big splotch of white, whatever, on the column right, camera right of the subject. I mean, we can go on and on. The void of detail beneath his hands. And I mean, like I say, we can go on. Jeffy, Kevin?
Yeah, it's interesting that you say this because I remember reading about this as well. And that blackness under his hands was representing lack of soul, lack of heart. That's why he left that heavy shadow be there. And then the bright lights in the ceiling that have no detail was the heavens overlooking him, judging him for his decisions. So the whole story, I mean, I got goosebumps sharing that with you. The whole story is just so, but again, I think it's so fascinating, as Rick shared, that he didn't want to photograph this guy until they said, okay, you can do whatever you want. Here's what he wanted. He did it. It was successful.
I think that leans into the importance of, planning what you want to do in advance and thinking about it. Hence the reason that storyboarding is so important in movie making, for
Yeah.
example, thinking those things through so you can get that end result. And when it comes to storytelling, generally speaking, that's planned well in advance. Those types of things are thought of well in advance, I would say.
And look at the success that we're talking about it how many years later, as if
Yep.
it was still an important photograph, and it is.
Exactly.
And you hit the nail on the head, Jeffy, with that one word, important.
Yeah.
How many images have gone through the years that are wonderful, beautiful masterpieces, but how few are those that are important?
And we laugh about, we look at this, and if this were to show up in a PPA competition, I think what the average score would be, what, 65, 67 maybe. For all of the things we talked about were done explicitly for this concept are
Can I just ask a quick question? Do we know what film he used?
not offhand.
Okay. I was just wondering if it was Ektachrome or something. Just the color the colors in this
Well,
image.
It has that look of an
that's a really good point, Sue,
Yeah.
that I should have touched on, because this really has a cold green look to it, and I have to feel that that was as intentional as
Right,
everything else
absolutely.
that was involved in it. And you know how we like black and white, and I did convert it. It does not, in my opinion, have the power in black and white that it does
really
in color,
interesting.
because of the I think because of that ghoulish greenish cast to it.
It all works, doesn't it? Just like that.
Yep.
Can I ask a
Jeff?
question?
Sure.
Looking at this image, I can't help but be struck by the idea that it's one thing to be able to have carte blanche as the photographer to, arrange the scene and lighting and all of this. But I think about nowadays, when we take a picture, it's on the back of a screen, it's visible immediately. And so photographing somebody like this and thinking about, okay, I have this idea of how I want this person to appear. If you were doing this today of somebody of an equal villain, how do you get them to actually do that? Like, how do you get them to pose in the way that's going to be so ominous as the photographer wants it to be, without the person who's being photographed to perhaps say, I don't want to be photographed that way? And I'm really curious about your thoughts on that, and the difference between doing it in the film world versus now in digital, where everybody can look at and might say, oh, I don't like that picture of myself.
Yeah, that's a really good point. I'll just say real quick, because in all of those days, of course, we didn't have that knowledge or concept or know that we could ever show the image, so it wasn't a topic. And when I first started shooting digital, the studios I worked for were, no, don't let them see it because of just the reasons you're bringing up. Let it be still the mastery, the artistry, whatever you want to call it, of the photography. You'll see it when we're ready to show it to you. So it for those very reasons. Rick, what do you think with your
Oh,
long experience of portraiture?
totally
Yeah.
agree. And I might be getting myself in trouble with some of my colleagues here. I do not show images to a subject on the back of the camera. I
Yeah, I
want,
know.
number one, it's none of their business. And that sounds stupid, but it's none of their business until I show them what I want them to see.
Yeah.
Secondly, just as Jeffrey pointed out, oh, I don't like that the way I look. Well, I'm doing the lighting, I'm doing the posing, I'm doing the composition. And really, how much do they know of what's going on? When you're setting lights, do they really know? I'm I'm not crazy about a broad lighting. Maybe you, Mr. Photographer, should set up a short lighting or a butterfly lighting. Uh,
It's funny when you say it that way, but it's so true, isn't it?
yeah,
Uh,
yeah. Uh,
So, hey, I'm the artist. Shut up.
yeah. So,
All right,
Jeffrey,
we're going away.
I hope that comment makes sense, Jeffrey.
Okay, Jeff, can I put my historian hat on here and give y'all what a historian would say about this? Something it's called HIP. It's an acronym where it's historical perspective, uh, the intended audience, the artist perspective, and then also the purpose of the photo. So obviously we know the purpose, the artist wants to, show this guy in a particular way because he sees him as evil. So he sets up his lighting in a way that kind of, makes him ominous. But the historical perspective, I think, the one thing that you really, really got to think of, and the artist is trying to show a man who uh, worked for the Nazis, who exterminated many of his fellow Jews. His intended audience, as speaking historically, is that this is trying to show probably younger people the evil that the Nazis did during the Holocaust. And then his perspective, as you can see, using the light and all. and as you can kind of see through the background, you know, it kind of looks like it's a wreck, which could almost be like, you know, wreckage from war. And then his purpose is, you know, obviously to show that this man was definitely involved in the destruction of Germany.
Cool. Thanks for that. Appreciate that story. Kevin, go ahead if you want to move on to the next
Okay.
image.
The next image is titled, I'm probably going to butcher this name. It's Allée du Prado by Henri Cartier-Bresson. This is one that I submitted. This image might very well be the birth of street photography. It was before Cartier-Bresson's decisive moment essay, basically, that he did. This image predates that by about 20 years. What's remarkable about it is it is decisive moment when you think about it. It's let me get my annotation up here real fast because there's a couple things that are pretty important to look at here. Notice where, let me get, these lines all converge here.
Right.
Right into him.
Yep.
Yep.
Very well thought out.
Very well thought out. Yeah. And it was almost, but it's still almost the decisive moment. He put himself in a position to capture that. No one knows who this man is. He's still unknown. The other important thing too here is look at where there's a person that's right back in there that you can just barely see off in the distance to give scale. And his head is just separated from those trees just enough, you know?
Can you blow that up a little bit, Kevin?
Yeah. Let me get closed. Oops, gonna do that and that. Yeah, you can see that figure back there. Just off of his right ear, camera left, which is really quite cool. I mean, the sense of solitude in here, the composition is just so incredibly strong to me. And of course, you know, in the PPA world, they might say, well, it would be nice if his head was perfectly centered in those vanishing points, you know? I don't know. In street photography, I think that this is just a remarkable capture of just a cold, desolate, dreary day in Marseille.
You know, another little point, it looks to me very candid, like somebody said, hey, turn around and look at me. It has that feeling of it, but obviously, like you say, there was a lot of thought put into it, whether it was the photographer stood there and waited for the right person to walk into that spot and then stopped him, or they set it up. Either way is fine. But to me, it has that very, very much of a candid, of a photojournalistic approach as opposed to a planned portrait. We obviously don't know what it was. You can guess either way, but very well accomplished, or very strong.
Yeah, and it's probably, you know, it's you know, it's old. It's 1932, probably shot on a Leica. Early reports say that it was like most likely a Leica. Not sure what the film was or anything, but it's, you know, that's probably what the sky was, just that bright white day of, you know, snowfall kind of a thing.
Look at the detail in the pleats of his overcoat.
Yeah.
And then you can see some of the pleats, the cuff of his pants. I mean, that's black, that's deep, that low light level, and yet to have that slight texture to give it roundness, that's amazing.
Yeah, right in here you're talking about. Yep.
Yeah, all that. Yeah. Yep. And even down at his cuffs, you can see the cuffs of his pants above the shoes. Just so subtle, but it gives it depth. It gives it the feeling that it wasn't just
I know. And little things funny too that we notice now, you know, I would love that umbrella to be separated from the tip of his shoe just a touch, you know. These little things that are just that we now notice in photographs because of going through competition. And I'm not suggesting that Bresson didn't notice those types of things. I'm most certain that he did. But in street photography, you don't have those options all the time.
That's right. That's right.
Exactly.
You know what I appreciate, in addition to everything that's been said, I really appreciate what I call supporting elements. Camera left, the cars, camera right, the individuals that are walking. which gives it a storytelling point of view and a reference, a kind of a time reference, because that cloak and hat, um, you know, something like that can be seen over a few different decades, but with these supporting elements, kind of gives you a baseline of the era. That's my story, and I'm sticking to it.
Hey, quick question, guys, before we go, just as a point of reference. Would you guess this was done with a rather wide lens? I mean, look at
35, probably 35.
yeah, okay, something like that. But what I'm saying is, if you look at the plane of the sidewalk, it has a bow to it.
Sure.
Trying to get my tool real quick, and so it's kind of a bow to it. And these people are probably a lot closer than it looks because of that wide angle. So it's making him the thought process of the photographer. He's using the wide lens to make him more separate from everybody else in the scene.
Yep.
So the trees even kind of they're leaning, which tells me that there's probably a wide angle. So just little things like that that went into the thought process to make this seem in the middle of the street, in the middle of the sidewalk, I should say, in the middle of a city with people around, he still feels very remote and very abandoned.
Next image is Amish Boys by George Tice, 1963.
Yeah, this is one that I picked up for the show for tonight. And to me, this has one of those almost a surreal feeling. We've got this candid, this photojournalistic story. These boys, no faces are shown. I mean, you can barely see a little profile, but to show you how that doesn't really matter. It still shows, I think, the uphill angle of this with their barn is their destination. There's nice leading lines of the road. They're going a direction. They're even synchronized in their step. That tree just kind of balances it and points us back to the barn. Beautiful tones of black and white, but the story is just so simple. Just a moment in the day in the life of these folks. But how powerful it is. I mean, I feel like I'm walking right with them. I feel like I want to race them up to the barn. And it just has such a neat little quality. There's no clouds in the sky. The tree is right in the middle. It's almost over the boy's head. All the things that we would look at nowadays and go, that's not going to work. But just the feeling I get from looking at this makes me feel like I'm standing right there. I'm with them. I'm wearing one of those hats and I'm going to race them up the hill. I think it's just a really strong story. Rick, Kev, anything you want to add?
I think the thing that I appreciate most about this image is the minimal approach to it. There's not a lot of stuff happening. It's you basically have three subjects. You have the two kids and then the barn up there. The tree is like a supporting element, as Rick was saying in the last image, but it just feels so well balanced and composed because there's not a lot of stuff going on here.
Yeah,
So it's a pretty simple image.
it is. And, we talk about, like you said, Gabby, well composed. And I'm just a sucker for what I call diagonally opposed composition. So where we have the two little boys diagonally opposed to the main structure of the barn. And man, that just, to me, is such a powerful composition that really captures the viewer's attention.
I love how there's
Another
three
thing.
windows in that barn and just one of them is open or uncloaked, I guess you could say, or not boarded up. It looks really it almost has the face look to it, you know?
That's just what I was going to say. And look at even the shadow in the upper windows. It looks like
Yeah.
the eyes are looking down at the boys like they're watching out for them or calling out to them. Just all those little things. Who knows if that was coincidental or planned. That's
I'm
cool.
sure,
That's the stuff I love. It draws them together, doesn't it? Very
It's
strongly.
fun. Yeah, it's when you look around this image, you start seeing those little Easter eggs and it's nice to see them. Interesting, if this is the actual composition, maybe it's a little wider. I don't know. Some of these we don't know, but there are those little elements that are creeping in on the side that you would want to watch out for. Like that needs to be either more in or more out, you would say,
All right.
for competition. Just that little bump there. But there's nothing really to nitpick about this image except for just how wonderful it is. It's just an easygoing image. Moving on.
Yeah, go ahead, sure.
Next image up. Oh God, this is one of my favorites. Fan Ho's image titled Approaching Shadow, which was in 1954. You guys will all know this image likely.
We were all going to choose it, but Kevin beat us to it. So.
Hello.
Well, there was another one too
Yeah.
Oh gosh, why is it doing that? This is what I want. There we go.
There you go.
This image changed my approach to photography in so many ways. As I said at the top of the show, I'm a graphic designer also. So when I see something like this that has such a strong graphic design aspect to it, I'm drawn to it. Guys, this image is not about her. It's about the location. It's about line and shape and form. Fano captured this. It was well set up. He was normally a street photographer. He was heavily inspired, in fact, by Henri Cartier-Bresson in that decisive moment. So, but this image was very planned. That's his cousin that's standing there. And I had some notes here because I don't want to forget anything here. What his meaning here, he had her looking down at the shadow, which I'm going to touch on here in a moment. It's very important. It's the fleeting nature of youth, and time is going to catch up with us all. That's what he was going for. Now, I don't necessarily see that. I kind of see where he's going with it, but the importance of the storytelling that he was bringing home, he really planned this image out quite a bit. But it is about the line and the shape and the shadow. And it's graphic design in its purest. I mean, when you stop and think about it. And if you remove her, this image falls apart. It's not about her at all, but if she's not in it, the image doesn't work. It just doesn't. And here's what's going to, if you guys don't know much about this image, this is going to blow your mind. That shadow, okay, let me put it this way. If you ever question whether you should or shouldn't do something in post processing, whether you should add elements or take elements out or whatever, this will tell you to do what you want. That shadow was not there. It did not exist on the wall. He did that in post. He did that in the darkroom with burning and dodging, or burning, I guess it would be.
Right.
Yeah. So that shadow, guys, you can go out. In fact, I challenge you, go out this weekend and photograph a wall somewhere and add a shadow to it like this in Photoshop. Go to our social media page. We forgot to talk about that at the top of the show, by the way, the community page. Take some photos like this of a building in your own city and put a shadow in it and post it on the community Facebook page, and let's see what we got. Let's all do that and see what we can come up with. It would be a fun little thing to do.
Kevin, do you think the impact of this image is more about the size relevance between her and the building, or more the fact of life to what we construct, what we build in life?
I think the impact is more about what we build as humans, and then just the form and shape that we as humans bring to the world.
Right.
How everything that we do is we want to line everything up so perfectly and vertically, and it just is pleasing when we do things like that. And the shadow going right out of the corner, that's a compositional no-no. We know that. But if you do it perfectly, it's remarkable when it comes together.
That's breaking the rules perfectly.
It is.
Yeah.
I mean, this image is nothing to do about a portrait at all, but remove her and it falls apart.
Well, it doesn't even technically fit into a photojournalism type of category either, because there's really nothing going on. That is a lot of times what a photojournalistic picture is all about. So that's spanning those categories.
She's simply there just to show scale. But if you see the image without the shadow, it's actually still a fairly strong image without the shadow, but the shadow is really what drives it home. Cool.
We have a question.
Sure.
Why is the shadow going out the corner a no-no?
It's just compositionally, typically things that are right out of a corner don't tend to work very well unless it's there with a purpose. So like sometimes we'll have a tree limb or something that's accidentally in the corner, and it's it can be a little distracting to have something right in the corner, but if you're doing it with intent, then it adds strength. Yeah, that's such a great image. This one's also mine. Jeff, I'm gonna let you talk about this one a little bit more though. This is Ansel. This image, 1958, Aspens. We all know this image.
Yeah.
I think what strikes me the most about this image, and by the way, this is one of the most reproduced images of all time, nature photos of all time, this particular one. I think what strikes me the most is the difference in contrast between the background trees and the foreground trees.
Agreed.
Because it's very flat back here. And I've actually seen this, a real print of this hanging in the exhibit in Golden, Colorado when he had his exhibit there.
All right.
I don't know, it was about a decade ago, I guess. And it is that the contrast is that flat back there. So it's, I don't know, it's pretty remarkable to me. But check this out. In competition, look at this. These little edge elements, these little distractions up here, judges would hit you for those, for sure. And like this little light on the tree that's right there, right in there. All of these little things, you know, I like to think that if Ansel were alive today, he would embrace Photoshop quite a bit.
Oh, I think he would.
Yeah.
Matter of fact, that one of his last videos he did, you've probably all seen, he's in the darkroom making a test strip, and he runs out with this really shit-eating grin on his face. And he's going into the kitchen to put the paper in the microwave to dry it quicker. So I think he would have embraced Photoshop without a problem. Yeah.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, and I think what was cool about is, as we all know, the Angela Adams and his partner, I can't think of his name off the top of my head, were the ones that kind of developed the pre-visualization technique, where he's seeing in his mind based on what he knows he can do with his film and his processing and such. But he sees the image finished, hanging on the wall, pre-visualization. So he was able to see the light on these trees in the foreground and the background being flatly lit in the woods, and really capitalize that and put a tree right smack in the middle. Everything is pretty much all vertical, and you get this one diagonal, which I think just holds it all together. It ties in this. It's almost like this guy on the left is leaning from his position in the light to say, don't forget about my buddies in the background, the shadows. And it's just things like that I think really help tell the story, bring us from front to back, bring us from here and now to what's possibly back there. And yeah, if you study the old masters, as we say, the old Ansel Adams stuff, and there's so many things in there, like Kevin circled there, that would not go in PPA competition because they're hitting the edge. Does anybody know, Kevin, do you have any idea, Rick, I know we've talked about before, but where that came up with, whether, oops, let me get my pen, if this is truly okay or not in real life? I know it's something we hear about in PPA competition, but I honestly can't find through research anything about do or don't have. I mean, I understand this concept that people have come up with. Anyways,
I don't know if it's a compositional like rule or whatever you might want to say. To me, in my own photography, I try to eliminate those edge distractions because I want to keep the viewer's eye inside the frame as much as possible.
It does pull the eye. That's true.
Yeah. That's the only reason for me.
Yeah.
Can I make a comment?
Rick. Oh, yeah.
So, the few times I've been up trying to capture, aspen in their splendor, there's that moment of the morning where the light just hits perfectly. And so I don't know if this was, again, pre-set up where he knew where to be at the right time, but, the magnificence of these foreground trees, but also the flowers, the weeds, there's so much, negative space in the background that those little poppies or what have you, not poppies, those little flowers create, like a sparkle, that you wouldn't even notice if it weren't for the perfect lighting in his main subject. It just really brings it together.
Good point.
It's immersive. I mean, I guess that's probably the better word for the whole thing. It's just immersive.
Mm-hmm.
Well, if you've ever seen a larger version of this, in a gallery or something, or of course there's the posters of it, so it's a larger piece. You can reach out and touch those trees. You can literally smell the rotting leaves underneath your feet. It's just
Yeah.
one of those images that we all strive for, that it brings in the other senses to it, as simple as it is. It's not a scratch and sniff. It actually happens. I still have
Okay.
yet to figure that out. Okay, go ahead. Go ahead. Next image.
All right. This next image is also one that I found and submitted, but I'm going to let you and Rick talk about this because this is right up your alley. Also Ansel Adams. This is 1937, Georgia O'Keeffe and Orville Cox.
You know, this is sometimes you have that capture the right place, the right time. And to me, this one really does. Who in the heck knows what's going on between these two? But man, that expression of Georgia, you just
Devilish.
makes you wonder what in the world did she say or did he say? I mean, uh, the bowed head and her with this impish look. Did she say something? Did he say something? Where I'm going with this is, this storytelling. And then there's this, dramatic sky behind them. And, to see any of her work, and she had um, her living quarters in New Mexico, which she loves so much. And matter of fact, hopefully, if you have an opportunity in Santa Fe, there's the Georgia O'Keeffe Museum, and just
Pretty
beautiful,
cool.
beautiful work there. But, um, when I look at this image, to me, the impact is in the storytelling of what's going on between these two. And as a viewer, I would hope that I would never know, that I would only continue to wonder. Uh, it's kind of like that thing where um, you learn how the magician does it, and there's no mystery to it anymore.
I mean,
Well, I
her
think that's,
expression is the price of admission alone, isn't it?
yeah.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
Well, and a lot of times when we talk about, especially when we talk about um, photojournalism, especially when we were photographing weddings, is always about the action reaction kind of thing. And this is very typical of that kind of a thing. She's looked at him with whatever she's saying with her eyes, and he's obviously responding with his looking down, sheepish, kind of little kid smile, like, gosh, golly, I got caught. And yet we know they're both married to other people and have been forever. Um, it just makes your mind go. And this, I think, at least in my knowledge of what my dad taught me and what I've learned over the years, is creating these kind of stories and whatever it is, even just a simple family portrait or a landscape or something, but to get that air of, I don't want to say secrecy, but to take it to another story, to take it beyond what's in your eyes right there. But not only to necessarily have a specific story, like what really did happen, but to create an image where the viewer looks at it and comes up with their own story and walks away. That's, I think, the most powerful thing we can do with our imagery, is to create that. We're writing the first sentence. It's like that once upon a time kind of a thing. We've all heard that line, but where you go from there, anywhere you want. And this so much accomplishes that. If we break it down again, it's a copy from a magazine and probably recorded and such. So his jacket looks soft and not very well processed and so on. But in this case, man, you go from one face, you go from her face back to his, you feel the feeling, you wonder what's going on, you go back to her face. Even that hand, how she's holding her hand has kind of a,
Yep.
did you get what I said, honey, kind of a thing?
Yep.
So I mean, it's so powerful.
It's the mystery of the
Yes,
story.
exactly. So it's very much.
And
Very much.
And my old friend and mentor, Ted Grant in Canada, because he was, self-taught, didn't go to, PPA schools or anything. He always said, he said, eyes, action, click. He said, that's it. That's the whole thing. And then somebody else kind of modified that. Again, it was some instructor I knew. And she said, which really fits here, because you talked about, or somebody talked about the hand. She said, eyes, gesture, click. And to me,
and it works.
That's it right there.
Yeah, definitely
as far
works.
as as technical as he needed to be for this image.
Well, and I think a lot of times that it's hard, and I'm not necessarily knocking or boosting up. Sometimes in image competitions, we get so wound up in, well, I like the expression, it's a good story, but, and then there goes 5 points or whichever scale they're judging on. And that's kind of sad because it kind of comes down really to, do you like it? What do you think about it? There's the reason for doing it, especially if it's your own imagery. So,
I think
Kevin, anything
that's
else you want to add?
no. It's funny because it's it's so unlike to see Ansel doing portrait work like this, but you all you have to do is look at the sky in the background. And you're like, yeah, this is an Ansel Adams, no doubt.
Yeah.
All right, moving along. This image does not have a title or a year. Jeff, this is yours, Galen Rowell.
Yeah, and maybe somebody in the audience can I'm sure a lot of you will recognize it. It was used for many advertisements for several climbing gear companies, but it was one of Galen Rowell's most, I don't know, famous, well used, whatever. Um, but it's just one of those images that in competition, judges have a real hard time with because they're looking for that focal point. What's the landing point? Where do I want my eye to rest? And frankly, gang, it's okay if you don't have, sometimes the whole image itself can be the resting point. So there's a lot of things you can say, well, the highlight on the points in the background are brighter, I'll go there first, or maybe the sky, or the down the right corner, that orange, deeper orange rock in the bottom corner here. Get my pen tool out here. Um, this area here could be a starting point. And it doesn't really matter in this case because we have such tremendous depth, the shadows with great detail and the rocks down here. And then you go up into the shadows and it takes you up because you're obviously looking uphill. But then we've got this edge against the orange. And I mean, it's just such tremendous depth and detail. And going through this kind of exposure to have, I mean, there's excellent detail in this highlight area, excellent detail in these trees down here in these rocks. I mean, technically, this is handled so well. And then to top it off with just a soft little cloud, the little cherry on top. Or I should say, that's the whipping cream there on top of the sundae. It just has that kind of power. And yet, unfortunately, a lot of folks, I'm afraid, look at this and go, well, where's the focus point? Where do I land my eyes? Well, I'm here to tell you, it doesn't have to do that all the time. It can be something where your eye travels and moves around and keeps going and keeps going. And that's the beauty of it, is that you might come in, whatever point you come in at, and you travel around the image and you keep going, and then you visit it again because there's so much to see in here. Guys, want to add to that?
I think one of the reasons this image was probably so impactful for how it was used, if it was on a wall at REI or on magazines or climbing magazines or things like that, is exactly what you were just saying, Jeff, is because people that love the outdoors and love rock climbing and hiking and backpacking, they can look at this scene and picture themselves walking through all of these
Yeah.
little nooks and crannies and climbing up this crevasse here or trying to
Yeah.
find a route up the face here on this other, the other cliff face where they would go to do that, or pitching their tent down in the valley down in here somewhere. They can imagine themselves there. That's why it's so
Yeah.
impactful for how it was being used.
And I'm sure that's why REI chose it for their climbing
Right.
gear, because it has that feeling of you're there. All you need is our ropes. That was
Yep.
the whole process, the thought process behind that, choosing
Yep.
that image.
Exactly.
Rick, anything you want to add?
Yeah, I think that part of the success of this image is pretty much summing up what you guys are saying, the relatability of this image to the viewer. They can relate to the scene, and they can, like Kevin said, envision themselves in the scene. So relatability is the term or the word that comes to my mind. And another thing that we didn't talk about, and probably worth mentioning, that what is a successful image? Is it because it's artistically rendered? Is it well crafted because of these elements? Is it because of the scene itself, the subject matter? All of those things make or can make a successful image. A successful image could also be what we might consider bland, normal, or what have you, but sells like crazy.
Yep.
Right.
So,
Yep.
Well, because it's relatable. So like you
Exactly.
said, people will look at it and they'll have their own story for it. And that's why they buy.
Yep. They can picture themselves there.
Right.
Yep.
Real quick story. I used this in a camera club for a compositional talk. And I asked everybody in the room, I said, where's the focal point? I didn't tell them what I had just said a minute ago. I asked them first, where's the focal point? We went around the room quickly, and I probably had 20 different answers for where do they. So not in the sense of what a focal point is in photography, but what did they focus on? And
Sure.
again, probably 20, 25 different answers for that. And they all had good reasons for it. So that's exactly, I think this image was successful for that reason alone.
Next up we have, oh yeah, this image that's coming up next defined what environmental portraiture was. So all three of us wanted to submit this image. So look, we can just say that it's from all of us.
Yeah.
because
From us,
this image,
from
I
us
think
to,
this
yeah.
might be the most impactful image of the night, potentially.
From our house to your
Would you
house.
agree? Yeah, this is Igor Stravinsky by Arnold Newman. Yeah.
I'm sure you've all seen that, but Ricky, go ahead. You submit it.
You know, this is, go ahead, Kevin.
Okay, sure. I mean, it breaks every rule. Every rule is broken here. You put the subject, Igor Stravinsky, he's not really the subject. It's environmental portraiture, so it's him and the piano, him and his work. And Arnold Newman spent many hours positioning him, positioning his arm, positioning the lid of the piano, all of these things to have this remarkable balance that's happening, the lines of the piano lid and his arm being the same, this beautiful triangle that's created right here. You have him way at the bottom left corner. I mean, are you kidding me? That would score a 68, right?
Yeah,
in PPA.
exactly.
Because of those things. Yet it's one of the most powerful images I've ever seen. Ever.
Yeah.
It's blocked up here. This is just this bold shape, like a lowercase letter B almost. No detail, but just this bold black shape. And then the way that Arnold Newman chose to allow this division of the wall to be right through here like that, rather than, so he created this other little triangle there essentially.
Yeah.
So he's created.
Look at where it's balanced too.
Exactly.
The bottom right corner. The bottom right corner is balanced with that triangle.
Yep.
The little space thrown through.
Yep. It's the time that it took to I'm sure Igor Stravinsky was exhausted at the end of this because it was many hours worth of work for this one photo. That's probably one of the most, in my opinion, one of the most impactful environmental photos of all time. Okay.
Absolutely.
What do you guys have on it?
Well, my point of view, in addition to all those really good points you made, Kevin, is the story that's being told here. I'm seeing where Igor is, the master musician, but the music is greater than any individual musician. Is kind of the story I'm getting because of the mass of the piano lid. And I'll confess, I know nothing about music, but the lid just reminds me of some kind of a music note on a score. But you're right. I mean, in terms of composition, this is just so powerful, and I really do appreciate, what you said about the repeating diagonals. Again, we've got a triangular composition, repetition of form and line.
Yep.
Just a masterpiece.
It is a masterpiece.
Somebody made a comment in the chat box there about weight and form, and if you look at what we've got with the brilliance of the brighter part of the wall is almost similar in size, weight compared to the black of the piano lid.
Yep.
Even the two lines you drew of the lid of the piano, and we've got, balance with this piece right here, the post with the arm of the piano cover. So I mean, it's just every little detail. As I mentioned before, I think this triangle, and I think they left this in the scene to balance that and to show the round. Because if you cut this little curve out, all of a sudden this piano does, or this lid doesn't have that musical note feeling to it. It all of a sudden looks like just a curve. And I think I mean, it's so well thought out. It's unbelievable at how well it's thought out. I mean, we can go on for a lot more, but I don't think it's necessary. I think it's been said. It says it for itself too.
Yeah, and with Igor there at the lower left, it's almost like he's drowning in his own music. He's coming up for a breath of air underwater, kind of a thing. And to Rick's point, the music is bigger than the man, and putting him precisely there drives that point home.
Yep.
When we look at this image and compare it to a previous image that we saw of Alfred Krupp, Arnold Newman, is there any question that he knew what he was doing? But I would recommend highly his book,
Yes.
One Mind's Eye. One Mind's Eye. And that is such a great book in a study of composition and lighting, and as was pointed out, how great successful images are well thought out. I highly recommend that book.
Next image up is photo by Richard Avedon, 1969, Janis Joplin.
Yeah, Avedon was one of my favorite portrait, candid kind of artists over the years, because he would take and create these very already larger than life celebrities, movie stars, musicians, and create these portraits that were very much their personality. I mean, there's a series I forget where to look, but there's a series of the film strip of all the poses that were done of this session with Janis Joplin, and they're all pretty powerful. But this one, if you've ever followed her music or listened to it, this one, if this doesn't say, I mean, I can hear her singing when she's standing there with the fists like this and the clenched teeth and her lips pursed like that. It's just, and simply this overhead light, not the normal portrait light that we knew, makes her seem just a little bit rougher, a little bit of shadow in the eyes, under the nose, not how we typically photograph or light a young face, female face especially. The body lean, all these things, it just is adding such motion, power, strength to the whole story that I think you can't not look at it. I mean, every time I see it, I just keep falling in love with the whole thing all over again. And this is the kind of stuff that reminds me why I got into portraiture in the first place years ago. Ricky, what do you want to say about it?
Yeah, what's interesting is you see an image like this and how photographers in the day influence photographers of today, or of a succeeding generation, because this is so reminiscent to me of Annie Leibovitz's work.
Yeah, exactly.
When we look at this image and Avedon's reputation, I mean, he was the go-to guy for these kind of images, as is Leibowitz now. So it's just so cool to see how influences carry on. And we all have our mentors, those that we emulated. And it's so cool to see that the baton is being passed and continues to be passed.
One other quick note, again, just we're talking about this and compared to today's competition stuff. I think the closed fists coming right at the camera, her forearms are foreshortened, even the lighting on her face would probably not score well because of those things. And again, right or wrong doesn't play into it. Does the story sell? Is the expression there? Do we get the feeling out of it? Absolutely.
Can you imagine in today's portrait session, the hair and makeup, they'd be like, oh, no, honey, we got to take care of these wispies.
Oh, I know. Well, look at on her forehead. Yeah.
Yeah. And just all the hair that's just wispy everywhere.
Yeah.
But that would take Janis out of Janis. if you
That's
did
right.
that.
Exactly. I wonder if you took just another young girl dressed similarly, same hair and everything, and lit her the same way, if it would have that same power. Does the Janis Joplin mystique build this even stronger in our minds? Probably.
Yeah. Those catch lights too. Oh my gosh, they're so intense, right?
They are. But doesn't that typify her
Yeah,
her
yeah.
whole passion for what she did, and singing was
Yeah.
very intense.
Yep.
So well thought out.
It's remarkable.
All right.
All right.
What do we got? What do we got for us next, Kevin?
Kiba by Morley Bear, 1973.
So this is the kind of crazy off the wall stuff that I just love, because it's not your typical. It's not what we see every day. Ignore the I don't know, some screens might have that the background is all kind of pixelated. Just ignore that, because it's, again, a small image. The simplicity of this image, the very high contrast black and white, yet there's details throughout all of it except the shadows on the left and right, which balance. We've got this almost the wall dividing the image in half vertically, which is a lot of times a no-no. And then if you look at just this ladder coming out of nowhere, and just that little, I think what really makes this that little curve of the right side of the ladder. It's just almost an invitation to hop the wall and climb up the ladder and see where it's looking, see where it's going. The shadow on the left balances nicely with the jagged edge of the top of the wall. Again, I'm just really impressed with the very high contrast, yet very well handled. Balance, talk about thirds, you talk about divided areas, the shape of the wall, the size, the size of the wall compared to the size of the sky. Just all those things, I think, just makes it a good balance, a good flow, good positioning on all the pieces, so that you just want to walk into the scene and just stand there and look at it for forever. It's just one of those pieces that you can't pull your eyes away from once you take a look at it. Kevin, you want to add anything to that?
I think this image, this along with a lot of the similar types of Ansel Adams images with that really black sky, were the ones that really impacted me the most in my early career as a photographer.
Right.
And I could never achieve it in the darkroom in the same way. And it wasn't until digital where I was able to start achieving this look that I went back to black and white, because I stepped away from black and white photography for a great number of years and was doing color work. And I never enjoyed the color work as much as I liked the look of black and white. I just could never achieve it. But it was images like this that impacted me the most. And
Yeah,
once
agree.
I was able to begin achieving that with modern digital tools, that's when I decided to make the conversion to be a full-time black and white photographer solely. So I don't do any color work. But that's the impact that this type of an image had for me.
Yeah, I agree. Same with me as well. Rick, what do you think?
This, excuse me, defines the zone system for me. You know,
Sure.
Yeah.
I'm looking at it, all the range is there, everything is there, plus the fact of the strong composition and all those great things that you guys have said about it. But the zone system, to me, when that came up, that's was my immediate impact or my immediate take on it.
It wouldn't work quite as strong without that extension of that one part of the ladder coming up into the sky.
Yes.
Like if it were cut right here, that pole, I think that image loses a lot of the impact.
Well, here's what I was going to throw at it. I get the feeling we've got this strong wall, these deep shadows, very leaning towards the masculine side. Then we have this ladder with this slight curve. It's kind of taking us out of the scene. I think that leads towards the female type of a perspective. So we've got this, whether it's a dance together or this natural separation between male and female. It has that story there of that kind of a feeling. There's a question. Jeffrey just asked, can you describe how those rich blacks of the sky would have been done in the film darkroom? Yes, I can, but it's a whole nother show.
Yeah. Yeah.
Basically, a lot of the early photographers like Ansel Adams would determine exposure based on what he pre-visualized. and would determine what the exposure, and he had a system that he rigged up, neutral, n+1, +2, -1, +2. And so it would give you from initial exposure based on how the length of exposure, more contrast, less contrast. And then he had his chemistry set up to equal that. So he knew the longer development in the development to start with, a longer development would give him more contrast and so on like that. So there's little tricks along the way that could help guarantee to get those deeper skies. You could definitely use filters on your camera. You could use a red filter, one of my favorites of black and white film.
Polarizer.
It's a blue blind, and it would take your reds to deep blacks. You've got a phenomenal black and white artist in the audience. I think Dennis Hammond is still here with us. So he's a guy to check with on black and white sometime too. But those are the little tricks that you could do, burning and dodging in the dark. I mean, it's a combination of all those things to get it to that point. And it's a lot longer than that. So I'll stop right there.
Next up is, oh gosh, this is one you guys will for sure know. Lunch atop a skyscraper. This is basically the building of Rockefeller Center. This guy right here.
Mhm. Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, man.
So amazing.
It is, isn't it? It was not a candid shot. This was a promotional piece. It was staged. They are, over 800 feet up. There's not a catch net below them or anything like that. They were the iron workers on these buildings, but it was in the Great Depression. This is 1932. New York wanted to say, hey, we're building. We're building real estate. Come here, work here. We're in the Great Depression, but we're moving forward. And that was kind of the promotional piece that New York was after at the time. It's just a remarkable image. There's a couple other variations of it too, but this is the one you will see the most. And I find it interesting that I think what I really love about it is just that one guy on the far right looking to the camera. Everyone else is looking at each other. And he's just looking right at the camera.
Yeah, and when I look at this image, I'm seeing how casually everyone is postured, like it's just which it is for them, another day at work. Man, my hat's off to the dang photographer. He had to be, what, at the edge of another building or closer to, on part of that building that offered some kind of a stability. I don't know the story behind this image, but gosh, I'd be shaking in my boots if I was taking that.
All I was gonna say is these guys, this was their office. This is what they did every day. No big deal.
Every day, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, what's interesting too, in a PPA competition, let's say, for example, there's a lot of things that would get nixed, especially with this cropping choice. You see some other crops on it too. There's a 2-to-1 crop that you'll see often on this, which is a much more pleasing crop typically. But you still have this wire that's cutting through, and the way that they're posed to Rick's point, they're not, it's not a very pleasing portrait photograph, for example. My point being, it would probably score a 73 or so in a PPA competition. But it's also one of the most recognized photographs in human history. Let that sink in for a minute.
Well, it's quite a story, just like you were saying. And I think the girders on the bottom left bring us the connection from where the camera is to where they are. So cutting those out, I mean, then they're floating, which is fine. But I think that little bit of girder in the cable on the right just keeps us connected from where the camera is to where they are. And then the background is going soft and almost, cloud. They're above some clouds, some thicker air. It just puts them in a whole new realm of environment with these connections to them of this cable and these girders. Because just hold your hand up and block out the girders on the bottom. It makes them seem like they're floating even more. I like the girders on the bottom because it just keeps us connected with it.
Yeah, this is the crop you'll see a lot.
And remember I was telling you about the sculpting that I saw. That's how this was. It's very long and narrow.
Yeah.
What's also kind of amazing is after just shooting, 8 pelicans in a row on the dock with a telephoto lens and only one is in focus, all these guys are basically in focus, including the cable, including the buildings in the background.
Yeah.
So you had to be like F-22, to get all that, perfect hyperfocal.
Probably a lot wider lens than what we were using on the beach too. So
true.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it looks like the photographer is likely standing pretty close to the edge here as well.
And
Yeah,
Mark
Right.
Cable's in focus too.
Yeah,
probably 35
Susan,
millimeter, I would say.
yeah,
Ish.
something like that, because there's not any distortion there. And Sue's got a good point. The guy on the right with an empty bottle, that's what he really thinks about it. He's already finished his drink for the day. He's sitting on the ledge.
Imagine
I don't
taking
care if
this
I fall.
picture
And was
it's
that
not in
water or
focus.
was that whiskey? Good gosh.
Right, exactly. Yep.
Because it looks like a whiskey bottle. Just saying.
It does. It sure does. What do you
Moving
got next for
on.
us, Kevin? Yeah.
Oh yeah, this is another super amazing image. Dorothea Lange's Migrant Mother.
Yeah, another one of my favorites of this kind of photography. I mean, just the impact that her expression has on me just says, I mean, I can't imagine, a lot of our parents lived through the Depression, and I've heard a lot of stories from my dad, from my grandpa and such, and this just says it all of what's going to happen, what I've done. And the two kids they don't even know what to do except just hold on to mama and hope for the best. And her expression is so powerful, and yet simple lighting, not even really a ratio. They're very, very soft 2-to-1. Her eyes even just a little bit muted, so there's not a catch light, and it gives us a little bit of a mysterious, almost a very, very somber kind of a feeling. And her hand to the face, stunning. Lots of texture in the clothing, lots of texture of the hair and all that, but you go right back to mama's eyes every time. The expression just says it all right there. Rick, any further thoughts?
Yeah, I picked this one because Dorothea Lange was one of my favorite illustrative, street, whatever genre you want to put her in as far as photography. And she did quite a series of this woman, because you look up some of her work and it's kind of a tent that she was in. Well, it was a tent. And this was during the Dust Bowl, when people were migrating west to California and the West Coast to find work. But there's, the expression in the eyes, the moment of capture, I guess, is where I'm drawn to it, and the storytelling of the children wondering, where the next meal is. And this is part of a series of photographs. And one of those other images is where this mother is nursing the baby that we could barely see in her arm here. And you have to wonder,
Right.
how is mama getting nourishment to feed that baby at her breast? So a lot of power to this image, a lot of meaning. She also did, Dorothea, she also did a lot of photographs in California of the Japanese people that were placed in internment camps, totally American citizens, yet because of what was going on, they were placed in internment camps, taken from their homes and their businesses. It's quite an intriguing background that she has. So I would encourage, anyone to look her up and look her work up, because we talked about the importance of images, and these images will stand the test of time.
I think her work is some of the most emotional of this kind of work that I've ever seen.
Yeah, it sure is. It's a tough image to look at.
Yeah.
And beautiful at the
Even
same time.
Right.
Kind of that mixed juxtaposition of feelings. It's just a beautiful image, but it's tough to know the conditions that it was captured in. Next up, Roaring Lion. Rick, this is yours.
Yes.
Yep. Coming up.
Yes.
Let me know when
Yes.
let me know when you want the next one up.
Okay. Can we take this up just a click size-wise? Okay. There. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Joseph Karsh, what a masterful portrait photographer. Probably one of my favorite, if not the favorite portrait artist for me anyway. Probably know the story of this image. He was not given a lot of time to make this portrait, and the very, very few after it. But the story being the scowl of the face of Churchill was rendered when Karsh walked up to him and literally removed the cigar from his mouth. And that was the scowl that Churchill gave him. And I mean, taking that photograph at that moment, the message being and defining Churchill as the leader who would take his country and indeed Europe out of the suppression of the Hitler and the Nazi regime. And to have a look like this of defiance just defines his position as a leader in the Western world and, of course, the Allies. Another image that Karsh took in this series is next. Carrie, please. Now, would anyone
Can toggle these. Oh,
Yes.
not that. Hang on.
Okay. I have to
Okay.
ask our viewers here, which image defines the leader that we just described? This one or that one? I know without question, for me, this is one that the grandkids would love with the smile. That, that's that's grandpa.
That's Grandpa. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
And that one is Hitler's nightmare.
That's right.
So we talk about the power as photographers that we have. And I make a comment when I talk to groups about portrait lighting and posturing or posing if you want. Sometimes as a high school senior photographer, you'll get the jock that comes in with the letter jacket and all the letters, the medals, blah, blah, blah. And he's just feels that he's the cat's meow. So he doesn't want to be there. Mom made him come. So he's got this attitude. So rather than have him seated, and maybe you could see my thumbnail in the gallery, but rather than have him seated with the masculine tilt to the head, we might tilt his head oppositely and maybe cross his legs, one knee over the other. And we've taken this jock from being this macho guy into a totally feminine position because we have that capability, that power, if you will, to render an individual or a subject in a fashion that we have the control of what message we're going to send. And I hope that makes sense to you because we look at this image, great for grandpa. We look at the previous image, and man, which one makes the statement of a leader? Go ahead, guys.
In that conversation in Karsh's book, he talks about when he saw him standing with a cigar, he knew he didn't want to have the cigar in the picture, so he went over and just took it away from him. That's where that first expression came from. Go back, Kevin, to that one. That's kind of where it came from, like almost how dare you. And Karsh, he says when he took the cigar and was walking back to the camera, he says, this is either going to be a very successful image or I'm going to be hung at high noon tomorrow. And I think that just so typifies the whole situation, the story behind it, because you look at he could kill you right there with that look. And that's what we're hoping for, to take care of Europe.
And this is the look, this is the look that maybe only people that were super close to him, like the Queen, for example, would have ever seen.
Well, I think he even, if I remember the rest of the story, he even complimented Karsh on your brave maneuver or something like that too, to come up and take my cigar from me.
That's great. All right, next up, George Tice's image called Mobile Station, 1974.
This is one that I threw into the bunch here, and the more I look at this, it's simple. It's like a gas station and a fuel tower. Why? But just sit into this scene for just a second and feel the simplicity of the station. We all take for granted. We pull up and get gas. I mean, this is years ago, but it just has that simple look. But then if you look at the story, here's the life behind this station. Here's the maybe not the fuel tank, but here's what creates the fuel that we take for granted every day. And then you think and look at the size of that compared to the small station, and you look at what's happening in life with the power of the oil companies and the countries, and then they fight over it. It's just, it has such a deep story behind it. And yet, in a sense, we hear about what's happening with these countries in oil, but it's all kind of shrouded in truth and so on. And look at the big tower there. It's just monstrous over this little building, represents all of those figures in the shadows, hiding back from us, kind of there, kind of not. And yet here we are living down here, just taking for granted whatever happens to come our way. And they have a snow tile sale for $23. So when was that, when tires were $23? That has to be a few years ago.
1974, apparently. What's interesting
So
to me
that's,
about this image is
yeah.
how low the contrast is in the background. It's almost muddy, we would say it in today's
Right.
terminology. It's a muddy black and white back there, and then you have a much better contrast up front. So it's again, it's like that Ansel Adams image of the Aspens, where it's a difference in contrast from foreground to
Right.
background.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
that really is very compelling because we tend to look at high contrast or bright tones first and then not the shadows, but playing them against each other
Hmm.
draws them together, but draws them together more than just the contrast level, but in the story and the context of what's happening back there.
Yeah.
Looks like a flare from another light, probably in the background, another street
Yeah.
light.
Just edge elements, yeah. Little things that would nix it. And I wonder how judges would look at this, the contrast difference. It's another one of those images that could score in the 70s or in the 90s.
Depends on the panel, that's for
Right.
sure.
That was the car of my dreams back in the early 70s.
Yeah,
Plymouth
no kidding. I was just looking at that. Is that a Charger or
Cuda,
a Challenger?
Cuda,
It's a
Barracuda.
Cuda.
Oh yeah.
Good
Okay,
stuff.
Snake River Overlook, Ansel Adams, 1942.
Another popular one we've all seen. And again, just more about the strength. I think probably most of us have stood at that parking lot and looked at it. It's obviously a little different. The trees have grown up. But just the really the simplistic view that's been chosen, and yet how powerful the curves and the lines, and even a thing that I like to do, look at how close the mountain, the Grand, is up against the edge of the photograph. I mean, yeah, probably most judges say that's too close to top, but look at how much more powerful it makes that by giving us that space. It's busting out of the seam, out of the seams here, and having all the curves, the river, and all those things that are coming in together there. It's just such a wonderful feeling of strength, depth, got very good contrast range, and yet certain areas, the trees right and the left, are very low in contrast, but good tonal range. And then when you compare the bright reflection of the water to the sky and the white and snow in the mountains, you've got a high contrast going on. So it's all these things are handled in one image so well. The mountain peeking through on the right side, very, very low contrast. Of course, obviously clouds are doing that, but it's creating its own role, its own position back there in the scene. And to get all of this, of course, the pre-visualization, I'm sure when he stood there and before he photographed it, knowing what he was going to do in the darkroom and how he would process it, added to it. But when it's all said and done, it's one of the most popular images ever in the world of photography, and how simple it really is. You park, you walk up to the edge of the parking lot, and there it is. There's not a whole lot of planning going on except after the fact. And that's what impresses me the most, to have that kind of a foresight to take obviously a stunning image, but any image, and to know what you're going to create in the darkroom from it. That to me is why I do black and white, because it's so otherworldly. Anything you want to
Wow, man, you covered the heck out of that one.
add?
But to your point about that, the tip of the peak being close to what we call a tangent point or a tangent line.
Right.
Um, I agree with you. That just creates that majestic look to it, to where it's so close to the border, you get the feeling that it can break through, and its nature cannot be contained. It's kind of like the message I would get.
The images we had, speaking of this image, but I need to mention two other images. The earlier image that Fan Ho had, Approaching Shadow,
Right.
and Igor Stravinsky. Those are probably two of the most impactful images on me as a photographer and how I approach what I do. But this image here is the image that made me want to pick a camera up to begin with.
Yeah,
Wow.
Yep.
totally agree.
Yep. This is seriously the image that when I saw it as a child, 10 or 11 or 12 years old, I said, I want to be a photographer. That's what I want to do.
Wow.
Yeah. That's how impactful this image is.
I was just gonna say, that's such a good point, Kev, because to be influenced by an image in such a way that it influences a person to make a career choice, man, how powerful is that?
Yep. Yep.
All I was going to add to it is I just had an epiphany about this image because my dad he used to get all the calendars, and he took this image and a couple other albums and just dry mounted them and hung it on in my bedroom. So I've been looking at this one since I've been, 10, 12, 13 years old. And again, as you guys know, all I ever want to do is play baseball, but maybe this is the reason I didn't stay there and went into photography was this image alone.
Maybe.
Because it's been around me for forever. Yeah, it's one of my dad's favorite as well. So
going back to the image of the steel workers on the building, Dennis Hammond offered a photograph in the chat that's really worth looking at. What the photographer in a previous image was doing. That's an eye opener for me. I hadn't seen that, Denny.
Yeah, that's pretty impressive, actually. And the other thing too about it, look at what he's wearing. He's just got some leather-soled shoes on. He's got no grip.
Yeah.
Yeah, and the suit and dress shoes, exactly.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, exactly.
Okay, we better move along. We got a few more to go here.
We have 4 more to go.
Oh, not too bad then. Cool.
Not too bad. Tantric Sorcerer. This is yours, Rick.
Yes. There's a photographer back in the 30s and 40s that William Mortensen was his name. And yes, this is a photograph. If you look up any of his work, in particular, monsters and Madonnas, there's a video that's out that Vincent Price hosts or narrates, and he talks about Mortensen's technique. As a matter of fact, back in the late 90s, early 2000s, Dad actually had quite a collection of Mortensen texture screens. And I think, I know Jeffy and Dennis and others on the call, Trevin, I'll bet you knows too, about these screens that you would apply during the darkroom work, and they would give a texture to it. But he went far beyond that. His technique was actually, it was called abrasion, where we would actually work the emulsion of a photograph to give it more of a, oh gosh, I don't like to say artistic look, but more of a nostalgic look to it. But this particular image, as we look at it, and we talked about kind of the ghoulish lighting on croup, and that's the kind of lighting that's being applied here, because as portrait photographers, we feel, the lighting should be appropriate on the subject, appropriate to the message we want to send. So if we were to do some kind of flattering lighting on this subject, it, in my opinion, wouldn't have the impact that he was going for. Because to look at it, is it a pencil sketch? Is it an ink drawing? That's what was really cool about what he did. But if you have an opportunity, just a vast array of work in this particular genre. And Mortensen did not belong to any associations, photography associations, certainly not PPA, except one. And it was some obscure association in Europe, Eastern Europe, I believe. And the only reason, 2 reasons, he didn't belong, that was the only one he belonged to, is because they didn't charge a membership and you weren't um, uh, obligated to attend any of their meetings. So it was just a total tongue-in-cheek slap, if you will, at organized photography associations. As a matter of fact, if we look into more of Mortensen's background, Ansel Adams, you can look it up, called him the Antichrist. And I thought that was just so funny.
Wow.
The Antichrist of photography. But I really encourage you to look it up. Not that, that we would want to do that kind of work, though it's totally creative and artistic, but to expand our thinking and our conscience as far as what we do as photographers. Man, this is such a wonderful, noble profession that we're in. And to see works like we're seeing tonight, man, that's such a treat for me, for sure.
Well, if you remember, part of our initial conversation to do this show was just to help encourage folks to look at things way beyond what we normally see in especially PPA competitions. That's what we usually are talking about, just to look at things and maybe hopefully expand your horizons, as they say, to look at stuff. And obviously, this probably wouldn't score too well in a PPA competition, but man, what a totally unique piece that you could take and do something else with that might fall better under the competition guidelines, if you will. But just to do something different than we do every time we pick up the camera and look through it and do the same beautiful work as it may be, we're doing the same thing over and over and over again. This isn't that.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay.
What you got next for us, Kevin?
This one is called Umbrella Paris. It's by Elliot Erwitt, 1989. Let you guys sit with this for a moment.
Something modern.
Yeah, it was commissioned actually for the tower's 100th anniversary. So Elliot Erwitt was commissioned to do this work. There's several other angles of it, but this is the most popular one you'll see. In fact, it's one of the most sold images of Paris ever, supposedly from my research. But what's interesting here is I want to point some things out. All of these, I mean, it's a mess down in here. Look at how messy it is.
Yeah.
You have this random guy that's down in here. His umbrella's touching the Eiffel Tower. There's a couple other images, or a couple other angles where the umbrella is actually crossing the Eiffel Tower. There's so many things that are going on. The horizon's even slanted a little bit. There's so many things that are going against this image, yet it's pure magic. It's just joy. You have the power of three, these three silhouetted subject matter, I guess. The Eiffel Tower is a supporting actor here in this image. The leading character here is the umbrella, of course, I would say, and then the wind. And what's interesting is it looks like it's extremely windy, yet her hair is not blowing at all. You would think it would be, you know? And it's probably because it was very windy and it just wasn't, and those umbrellas got messed up. And he probably captured dozens, if not more, of this image before he landed
Yeah,
on likes.
yeah,
The
I'm kind of
building is
thinking,
leaning here, there's just a lot of things going against it, yet it's pure magic. Pure
yeah,
magic.
I'm thinking her hair, is wet and drenched, and
Yeah,
it would be hard for her hair to flow as if it was
to
dry.
flow. Yeah, sure. Yeah. This is this image speaks volumes to me just because it's just a happy image. It was staged, it was set up, it was planned, and I think he had assistants with him working with the models, and it was it's just a happy image, that something that we would imagine our senior photographers doing today.
You guys have said it. It totally is that um, unique kind of perspective, and it probably was set up for a advertisement or a commercial or something. Like I said, there's many images of her jumping or person jumping. I don't even know who it is. But just the whole feeling of the accomplished image, even the two statues here, two humans here. Is that another human down the line right here? Just all these little points bring depth to the scene and just keep us moving our eye around, even though they're, like you said, overlapping the tower, which is not the primary thing. So it's just every little aspect could be a picture in its own. If you were to crop just the person dancing, jumping in front of the tower, you crop just the couple here. But you let me look at how leading this line is angling in here, falling in. The level is not horizontal. Doesn't matter. It still has impact and story, and it really doesn't need to be polished so shiny that we think we're meeting some standards. It's telling a story. It's giving us a feeling. It's giving us a strong emotion.
Yeah, and that's kind of the point, isn't it? Of tonight. It's
right.
saying we look at all these remarkable images that we all know from the past, from 1930s and all the way up to almost 1990 here for this image that by all means, many of them would score poorly in competition, yet they're amazing works of art. And so we're so focused all the time on how our images are going to be in competition. Why not focus every once in a while on how the heck it's going to look on your wall and how it makes you feel when you walk into your living room and see it there behind your couch?
Yeah.
Yep.
I was wondering if those if the inside out umbrellas were staged, if you said, here, hold these inside out umbrellas.
Could have been, but when you
really flat.
Yeah, and it sure could have been. But again, the overall concept, it works.
It doesn't change a thing.
Right, right.
All right.
Good stuff.
One more to go. And we're going to close with the babe bowing out.
All right.
So this is one of my absolute all-time favorite images in all of sports. And it's just that. I mean, this larger than life human being who was just another guy. He sat in the dugout and ate hot dogs and drank beer in between at bats and still hit the ball farther than most people. And he was so beloved and was traded for $100,000 from the Red Sox to the Yankees, which was unheard of at the time, but they obviously got their money's worth. And to have the stadium full like this on his last day, his last game, and just to me is just very emotional. Technically, you can look at a lot of things that pull away from him, but the whole story, and even I think it's interesting is he always had this rounded posture. His shoulders are always kind of forward. Did not look like an athlete. Certainly wasn't built like today's athletes, and yet he could still out hit the guys today. But just to see this, wasn't one man leaving his job for the last time. He wasn't punching the clock for the last time. This was a legend who was leaving a larger than life story, and it's just such a simple image, and yet. Again, me and baseball have been such a big thing. It probably means more to me than a lot of people are going, well, it's just a picture. But it just has such a phenomenal story. I mean, you can't see his face, but you can see the tears on his cheeks. You can hear the crowd just roaring. He's waiting for everybody to shut up so he can say goodbye. And just all of these things come rushing in. And it's just one of those very powerful images that speaks of a whole, not just one person, not just a bigger than life personality, but for the whole sport, for the whole time. And if you look at past movies and such, and you look at the people in the stands of these ball games, they all had suits and ties and dresses and hats. And I mean, it's just things have changed so much, but it was such a formal day out to do this. So this monster of a man leaving the game was, I mean, I don't think there was a dry eye in the house. So it's just very, very emotional feeling. Kevin,
I think I can see the hair. I think I can see the hair on your arm standing up from here.
Yeah,
Jeff.
it is definitely
Honestly.
that.
Yeah.
It's not the fan in the room, it's this picture.
Yeah. I have nothing to add. You've covered it.
Oh, good. Rick, any more thoughts?
No.
Fine, let me
No.
retract 2 or 3 lines so you can put them back out there.
The image I was
Oh,
hoping to see tonight was the image of Y.A. Tittle. Remember that image?
Oh, that's, you know what? We could do this show 10 more times and not hit all the cool images, but
Yeah.
you're
Oh
right.
yeah.
That would have been an
Yeah,
awesome one here.
there's a bazillion, everyone
Yeah.
that's watching this or will watch the replay
Yeah.
has an image that wasn't covered tonight.
That image of Y.A. Tittle on his knees with blood on his forehead.
Yep.
Yeah, what
Extremely
an,
powerful. Yeah.
yeah.
Well, and Kevin had a comment earlier about just repeat that if you would, about challenging people to do an image. Was it from the fan ho image?
Yeah, that was the fan ho. You know, we created the Facebook site,
Right.
the community, the community group. That's what I'm getting at. We
Yeah,
created
make
that.
sure you go to the community. Right.
Yeah, the hope that we go to the community one, not the other one. The Image Critique Show community. But we created that group so that we can have everyone get on there and interact, post your photos, talk about them, critique each other. You know, we help bring each other up. And if there's equipment you want to talk about, or like, you know, Jeff was mentioning earlier about the tripod, right? That you just bought, Jeff
Yeah.
Huckwick was. Yeah. And so talk about those things. The group is there for all of us to get on and share. And so after tonight's show, if there are images that we didn't cover that you like, pull them up, go find them, post them on Facebook, talk about them. Let's
Yeah.
keep this conversation going.
Absolutely. Cliff, please post that one of Y.A. Tittle, because that is just another phenomenal.
Yeah, I will.
So,
Yeah.
and you don't have to worry about quality, or just, borrow it and put a copyright or the photographer's name on there just so we stay safe.
Sure.
Please, let's see what you guys think is cool. Doesn't have to be historic, doesn't have to be old. It just has to be something that is powerful to you, and lean towards the shadows, and like Karen was talking about, just to kind of have a little bit of a theme going there. Anybody else have questions, thoughts, comments, bad jokes, like I always say, for all of us? Jeffrey, do we cover enough of the topic about the Ansel Adams exposure techniques? I mean, we can certainly talk about that another time, but it's pretty involved. But to get your black blacks and your white whites, to get that full zone system.
I mean, I would love to hear more about it. I'm somewhat familiar with it, and there's a comment about like using a red filter, things like that. I've done some of that in the past with the film work, and I'm also really interested just in some of those higher contrast black and white images, really getting that kind of punch. I think of like Sebastião Salgado's images
Yeah.
and the amazing contrast and punch that he has. So. If there's anything else you'd like to share about that, I'd love to hear.
Well, again, I could go on for a long time about that, and it's a lot of developing your own system, and no pun intended there, but creating your style, but also learning some techniques that you can repeat every time to do the same type of thing, whether you're looking for the high contrast work. And when you do high contrast, you have to, if you notice those ones that have that high contrast area, there's areas that still have the tonal range in there. That's the key, not just whites and blacks and a gray in the middle, because that's your, when you look at the zone system, there's 11 squares there, but when you look at each zone, there's about whatever 256 divided by 11 is 21 or something like that, 23. There's that many shades from left to right. It goes, black to a lighter, that light to the next. And so every one of those zones has a gradient to it. That's the key. That's what makes some of these black and whites so phenomenal. When you stand there and literally drool over a black and white image on the wall in a gallery, it's probably because of the tonal range. That makes it realistic. That makes it three-dimensional. That makes you want to sit down on that rock and watch the birds, all those kind of things. And that's what keeps it. Rick has talked a lot about the first element of design when we talk about the elements is impact. And just real briefly, you've either got lasting or fleeting. And if there's an image might come up on the judging box, or you see it in the gallery or whatever, and you go, wow, that's great. And then after a couple of minutes, it's still nice, but it just kind of loses it. It's that impact of the things you talk about, composition, the tonal range, all those things that keep you looking, and you can't tear away. You go around the museum, you come back and look again, or you buy a postcard on the way out because it's got that picture on it. Those are the things that make those images score higher in competition. I know, Dennis, if you're still in the room, please feel free to jump in. A lot of the black and whites he's done have those tonal ranges that are just phenomenal. We're three-dimensional. You don't see a tree that may be a little lighter on one side and a little darker on the other because the light's coming from this way. It's literally got all the zones through that roundness of that tree trunk or telephone pole or whatever it might be. That's what pulls you in. That's what makes it be the more compelling. Dennis, anything you want to add more on the black and whites topic without having a whole course?
Yeah, we do need to do a workshop on this one day for sure.
Yeah.
I think you hit it all. I mean, it's just too many people judge black and whites, against the tonalities that their eye sees, and they don't understand what actually can be accomplished with black and white. So I think you hit it all about the tonalities and the necessity of reaching all those values in it.
Yeah, I think to me, that's the life of a black and white is the tonal values. You can get some nice, and there's been some great real high contrast images that don't have a lot of mid-range tones or a lot of obviously detail, but I'm talking about tonal range, total gradation. Not to go too much more into the into the workshop feeling, but when you get something that just has that, when you can't tear your eyes away from it and you want to walk over and hug the tree because it's so compelling to be real, that you're in the right ballpark then. So we'll move on from there.
Yeah.
If anybody gets a chance to see that Ansel Adams exhibit, I can't tell you how breathtaking it is to see some of those prints, those large prints hanging on the wall.
Yeah,
I saw it in Vegas, I think, and I had to walk out and sit down in the foyer, and I sobbed. I was just so struck by the whole exhibit, really. I mean, there were letters that he had written to his parents when he was at a summer camp, and he was bored with all of the activities. He just wanted to go develop his pictures. And letters that he wrote to Georgia O'Keeffe.
There's things that you see in those and his prints that you just don't see in the reproductions and books and posters. Detail that comes out in his prints, to your credit, that you simply just don't see otherwise. It's almost like listening to audio on a hi-fi system for the first time after having heard a song your entire life, only hearing it in your car, and then all of a sudden you hear it on a pure hi-fi system and you're like, dang, I didn't hear that symbol before.
Well, here's a challenge for all of you. Since we're so used to listening to AirPlay and little speakers and stuff, go to a stereo store and go into their room and say, I want to hear those speakers and play me some Boston, play me something that has all the range of music. Just sit down for a second and refresh your memory what real music is. I don't mean just specifically that group, but something that is not done with a computer, is not done with a, what do they call the voice technology these days?
Auto-tune.
That's the same thing we're talking about. Yeah, auto-tune. That's the same thing we're talking about, is real photography. Not that today's photography is bad, but there's some impact to this kind of stuff. So definitely, guys, go and check out our new Facebook page, and it is called the Image Critique Show. I'm sorry, is it group? No, what'd you call it? A collection? Community. And be a part of that. Just go and like it, and feel free to ask questions and post ideas and share your work with us. We want to do this after every meeting. Even though next meetings are going to go back to have you folks submitting like we've done in the past. That's the point of us. But submit some of your work that we've talked about tonight, some ideas you've seen, some old pictures, new pictures, whatever. Just drop it in there and share it with everybody and comment on it and so on like that. That's going to be really fun.
Yep.
Any other questions we can answer for you real quick before we're done for the night? We're going to, obviously this is being recorded. We'll put it up on the both the Image Critique Show page for 2026, and it'll also be on our YouTube page as well. Any other ideas that you guys would like to see us cover? Oh, another thing I know I was going to announce. We're going to do something a little different this year. I don't have the list in front of me. Maybe Kevin can come up with it real quick. We're going to theme each month for images to enter. Just we're going to try something a little different. So we've got some judges that are a little bit more specific on 1 month will be portraiture, 1 month will be landscape, 1 month will be, I forget all the other words that we've come up with. So kind of think that way. It's going to be posted in the next couple of days on the website. So you'll be able to, actually, I shouldn't say that. I'm going to probably the first of the week because I'm traveling in the next couple of days. But watch for that. So there's going to be a theme for each month's presentation. So you'll be thinking about your images to submit for those themes. Color, black and white doesn't matter, but that's kind of the idea we're going that way.
I got it here. March is landscape. April is black and white. May is portrait. June is wildlife. July is open pre-state competition. So it's anything. August is photojournalism. September is animals, and October is open for pre-PPC competition. And I think you changed one of those, Jeff, but that's roughly what it is.
It's correct on the, I'm pulling up the web right now, so it's going to be correct on there.
All right.
So watch for that.
Okay.
What year are we in here? 2026.
Yeah. You guys can go and see that there. And these are the types of things that we're also going to be starting to make announcements on the community page on Facebook too. We want to get more involved on the social media side of things because it's an easier place for all of us to interact moving forward. You guys can invite people to join, et cetera, et cetera. So let's commune there as much as possible. Facebook is much better for that than places like Instagram, honestly. It's easier to carry conversations and that type of stuff and make posts. So that's the reason we're doing it on Facebook.
Those themes are on the website. So you look at the months, you'll see the words after it. So Rick, what do you want to add?
Just a big thank you to our colleagues out there who've been so loyal and supportive of our mission here. And as always, a big thank you to Cliff. Always count on you, Cliff. And I truly appreciate that. And a big welcome to our longtime buddy and little brother, Kevin. Looking forward to a great year with you, Kevin.
Thanks. I appreciate it.
Yeah, just appreciate
Absolutely.
all you guys' input. Thank you so much.
You got it, man.
Thanks, guys, for tuning in. Kevin,
Yep.
thanks for coming and sitting in with us and being our friend.
You got it, man.
Great one. Thanks,
everybody.
Thanks, guys. Good to see you.
Thank you all.
Cliff, thank you so much for sitting in again for us and helping us out. Your paycheck's in the mail.
Perfect. I'll look for it. Or Twizzlers.
Yeah, that's right. It's got to, and it's not, I'm sorry, not the red vine, right? Not red vine.
That's correct.
Okay. Man, if I do that wrong. Phew.
The stamp costs more than the check.
Did we go down the wrong road here, Rick, with this? Or... Oh, my goodness.
Good night,
Thanks,
all.
gang. Take care.
Good night, guys.
Good night.
Thank you for watching the Image Critique Show with Jeff Johnson and Rick Avalos. Learn more by checking them out at theimagecritiqueshow.com.